Everybody's hurtful.
Okay, give me a call, Jack.
You're here. Mr. Miller, did you say we're good to go?
Yes, sir.
You haven't lost your voice, have you?
No.
No. Any answer?
Now I'm gonna try again. Hey, are you coming to the board meeting tonight? You there? That's okay, I just want to double check. You want me to just leave you on the phone then? I'll leave you on the phone here, I'm gonna put you on speaker, put you in your stand, okay? Now, there is one item on here, the RT Rogers for a bill, that's the only one I see that would be conflict of interest for you. Alright. Sure. Now I could get Jay. It's like herding cats.
Good evening and welcome to the Summers County Board of Education regular meeting. It is Thursday, March 10th, 2022. The time is 6:03 p.m. Let the roll call reflect that three members are present. Mr. Bergen's joining us by phone, and we've been unable to get in touch with Mr. McBride. He may be en route. Mr. Angel, would you do invocation and pledge, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come out tonight into the business of Summers County Schools. Lord, we thank you for each person that's here, showing their interest in our school system. Lord, we thank you for the students that are here tonight to display and be recognized for the activities that they've participated in, and the skills that they have demonstrated. Lord, we just pray as we go through this agenda that you give us wisdom, give us the insight that we need to be able to make the decisions that are going to be best for our students and for our staff here at Summers County Schools. We just want to remember those in Ukraine right now tonight, Lord, that are suffering. We just pray that you would intervene there and give them peace in that area. It's in Jesus' name we ask these things. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, approval of agenda adjustments. Chair moves that 2 items be dealt with separately on bills and separate from each other. And that would be a bill to R.T. Rogers and also a bill being paid to Mr. Farrell. Is there a second to that? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 4 votes in the affirmative. Those 2 items are to be dealt with separately when it comes to paying bills. I looked on the bills, I didn't see any from James and Law or McGraw-Hill. Are there any other adjustments that any members would like to offer on the agenda consideration? Okay, Chair moves that this board approve the agenda as presented to us by the superintendent, noting the 2 adjustments made regarding paying bills. Motion by the chair, second by Mrs. Farley. The board approve the agenda with the previous mentioned adjustments or motions. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 4 votes in the affirmative. Are there any public comments? We have before us in your packet minutes from February 24th and February 28th of 2022. 24th being a regular meeting, 28th being a special meeting, work session. Chair would entertain a motion for those minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the February 24th regular meeting and the February 28th special meeting.
Motion on the floor, Mr. Angel, seconded by Mrs. Farley. This board approve. I'm sorry. This board approve the minutes from February 24th and February 28th. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 4 votes in the affirmative. Minutes have been approved. At this time, we come to item pause for applause. And it's always a good time in our meetings. So Superintendent Warlaw, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hudgens because all the pause for applause comes from this building tonight. We have 6th grade through 12th grade that we want to recognize, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hudgens so he can talk about the students and some of the staff here in this building.
Thank you, Superintendent Warble. Today I want to take a chance to recognize our band. First we had, is this better? All right, the first one we want to recognize West Virginia Honor Band is Amanda Bennett, a junior who was chosen to participate in this prestigious program. Is Amanda Bennett, please stand.
What did you actually do? Can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah.
Why don't you just go up to Mike? Nobody's gonna, it'll be okay. Just tell us what you did to receive that honor.
Only Mr. Sims.
If you need Mr. Sims to come up and help you, we can do that as well. It's like phone a friend.
She's nervous when we get Mr. Sims to share something.
Okay.
Well, I'm a preacher, I talk a lot anyway, so. Well, what was is, about around, what was it, February the 11th, February 10th. What Honor Band is, it is a, what they do is they send out letters to the band, the directors, and we pick, students that, you know, that have shown, progress in music, of course, and you choose a list of students, and what you do is they'll send you a letter, and you have up to so many to choose, and I chose actually 6 from Summers County Band to go to WVU, and with COVID and all these things, it changed because they used to, before they, the last time that I had done WVU Honor Band, they took 4 members, but they said they had to cut everything in half because of COVID. They used to have 350 students show up from all over, and up there it's like from 5 different states. speakers, you know, from 5 different states would come and perform. And I'm just gonna tell you that WVU Honor Band, it is different. It is different up there, and it is different. And the music is harder, everything is harder when you play. But they select, because the directors have a list, and the first ones you put on your list, you just go down the list. And they actually chose 2 members, and Rory Harvey actually was chosen as well. Unfortunately, she couldn't go to that one, but we had 2 members chosen, and actually at first they only chose 1, and it was Amanda, and then they contacted me later and they said Rory has been asked to come as well. So they get up there, and what they do is they play, they just play in ensembles. And I'm just going to tell you right now, when Amanda got up there, she was playing, if you don't mind me telling you. But she got up there and she was overwhelmed at first, and I had to do my band director thing, and I had to tell her, I said, Amanda, you just gotta, be honest, you just gotta suck it up, and it is what it is. And I told you, I said, it's a different level up here. And so she did, and I told her, I said, by the concert, by the time you get done with playing with all these ensembles, you will have it. And she did. She went up and then she really, really represented Summers County, you know, very, very well. And it was nice and it was wonderful. And I got to see pictures. I still got pictures of the things up there. But Amanda stood in and she did. She played her instrument and again, you know, represented us real well. So.
I gotta ask a question from Amanda. You'll be a senior next year, right?
Yes.
Are you gonna help recruit so we have twice as many that we had this year with Mr. Sims on that football field to compete?
Yes.
That's good, because I talked to Randall Reed Smith at the State Department today, and he's gonna bring Kathy Justice, that would be First Lady Justice, and they wanna see what Mr. Sims and you all are doing. So I just went ahead and told him that today, and he said, Mr. Sims needs to give Mr. Randall Reed Smith, I'm just letting you know, you call him and he's ready to come down, and he wants to see good things because he's heard good things about you, and he's excited that you've taken over and you've made it a better band situation, we'll just leave it like that. And then here at Amanda, who doesn't want to get in front of everybody, I know it's awkward, but we did want to give you the recognition, kiddo, because you made us proud, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I certainly agree with Mr. Warble. If you've been to our ball games this year, if you've been to our pep rallies, the band has really made a difference in the school spirit, and the numbers have grown tremendously, and we look to see that continue moving forward. Now we're going to move on to Marshall Honor Band, and this was a 3-day program that Mr. Sims went up there, and also Miss Ellen Holt. She probably doesn't want to come up here, but she went with him as well, and she was very helpful on that trip. But the first person I'm going to mention is once again Amanda Bennett. Logan Osborne.
If you have Amanda stand here, great, in front of all the kisses. I like your sweatshirt, by the way, that's pretty cool.
Stephanie Williams. Elizabeth Modine.
How are you doing?
Alyssa Meadows. Lexi Lusk. Cheyenne Smith. speaking with their instruments. If Mr. Smith would like to speak about the Marshall trip, or Ms. Holt, you can.
I literally just sat there and watched.
Okay.
Sounds like you like him.
Yeah, again, it was another 3-day, and they actually did this, well, WVQ trip was the week before the Marshall trip, so we did it 1 week, and then, you know, first and foremost, I want to thank, you know, Summers County and the Board of Education and everybody for the bus. That was one of the easiest, I'm telling you, I never had a bus before up there like that. Now, I did with the middle school, and Ms. Hudson helped us get one a couple years ago, but the first time, like the 3-day, had a bus up there, and it really made it easy for us, and our bus driver was wonderful too, that was with us. Okay, he made it easy too. But, you know, they got up there, and again, it was students from actually different parts, the states, you know, there's like from people from Pennsylvania and other states, on WVU, but there were people going from Ohio and Kentucky and different ones up there at Marshall Honor Band. But a lot of these guys, you know, they would separate the band. If you've ever been to Marshall up there, they actually, it's kind of a big campus, and they got the music building sitting on the end down there in the corner. It's like one-way streets, and you can't really get in. And some of the kids, and I always hope that all of them get put kind of in the same band. So, but I do a lot of walking up there. I think I was averaging 30,000 steps a day up there, going back and forth. And but they put some down. I think Chris and Lexi and were down on the far end. And we had the first night we had to walk through the rain, and it wasn't fun. But they did well. And I'm just going to pick on Chris Thompson here for a minute. There was an actual Marshall basketball game going on the one night that they were rehearsing, and I know Chris was wanting to get in there and watch that basketball game, but he was in there practicing, and of course, you know, he was, but anyway, you know, he wanted to get in there and watch that basketball game, and then he actually wanted to step on the M in the middle of the court, so he snuck in there, let him do that. But again, you know, every band, there was 4 bands that was selected. The symphonic band, Amanda was in the symphonic band, and you had like 4 bands. You had the symphonic band, you had the wind ensemble, and then you had 2 big clinic bands that were playing as well. And these guys got to, I think there was over 100 in each band that played. So, but they did, again, they represented, and I will tell another little story, and I promise to, you know, quit talking as much. But anyway, we got up there, and all the guys, they were wearing their Bobcat Band hoodies. And one of the directors, one of the clinicians were up there, and they were talking, and they were rehearsing, and all of a sudden he seen me, and he said, "Look, it's the Bobcat Band director," because all of us kind of matched, and I do that on purpose, so I know which one of my kids are, you know. And then we got in there, and he said, "I just love my Bobcats." So it was real good. So they represented us really, really well again at Marshall. So and again, you know, we're trying to build a program here, and we're trying to make it better. So thank you guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Mr. Sims went to a football game at James Monroe, and I believe you all performed it.
Yes.
I want to thank you. It was good to see that, and so we hope that continues on, and there's more of that next year for us to see. Thank you very much. You represented us very well.
Good job, guys.
All right, the third group we want to recognize is youth and government. We have 4 students who were chosen by a blind down payment based on the essay about why they want to participate in the seminars at the Capitol. I'm going to turn this over to Coach Vickers. Coach Vickers went to that with students, and I'll let him speak on that.
Take this out because it's a little easier than bending over. So real quick, kind of to back up on what Mr. Hood just said, these 4 students were selected from a group of about 24 responses where they had to answer a few questions. We had 6 different teachers across grade levels to read those and basically judge those without any identifying information on those. So we chose 2 females and 2 males. And I'm going to bring them up here and I'm going to talk about what they did and kind of the stuff that they were able to learn while they were there. But I'll bring Zoe Bowling up first. And we have Sam Sears. We've got Hayden Crook. And somewhere back there we got Ben Bragg.
Mr. Vickers?
Yes.
Was I told right that 2 out of 4 like to talk more than other people?
Listen,
Is that the 2 boys
the
maybe?
2, I think the girls would tell you this, the 2 boys asked more questions than any other student there, separately, like they were 1 and 2. It was probably close to 100 questions, and I mean, Zoe and Hayden said me sometimes, come on. We just want to move to the next thing, but they had a blast, and I think they would tell you that. So first, before I kind of get into this, I want to thank certainly the Board of Education. They paid for this entire experience for these students. The bus, the travel up there, some meals, the lodging, and it's a really rewarding experience. I think if you asked each one of these students, they would tell you that not only did they have fun, but more importantly, they learned a tremendous amount. Okay. So when we first got there, we get off the bus, we check in, we register, and you're right into like the opening session. You don't even have time to put your luggage away really, you just kind of get to throw it down and have one room ready. And also, I need to mention Miss Cook, she didn't with us as well, she just couldn't be here tonight, but Miss Cook was also a chaperone, and she's our 8th grade English teacher. Normally, the West Virginia history teacher goes, we had a transition there, and that new teacher's only been in the room for about a week, so we didn't want to give them the responsibility of taking students who didn't quite know yet. So, when we get to the open session, and it's pretty engaging just to start with, they fill out a survey about what they know before they start, and then right before we left, they filled out another survey about what they learned along the way. They get to participate in mock legislation, so the organization brings in lawyers, and they talk about how a bill is made, and then the process, they get to go through the process of basically forming their own committee, creating amendments to the bills, and then voting on those, whether they approve the amendment or not. So they get to kind of get a quick lesson on how bills are introduced, amended, and the process they go through. The following day, we also had a mock trial. So they also hired a law firm about 4 or 5 years ago. They said to create an entire trial with characters. They're all named after, were they named after guys? Do you remember? West Virginia County. So all the characters in the trial are named after. There's a Kenny Canal and Lester Boone. So all the last names were counties. And so the person that's in charge of this, his name's Coop. He would come around to each group and ask who would want to be participate. Of course, I don't know if you know this or not, but our 2 boys, first thing they did, they tried to recruit our girls into the jury, and they're like, we just want to listen and learn. Like, okay, you don't have to, that's fine. But Ben was the high school principal of Capitol High School, and Sam was the drug dealer.
Be non-accused.
He cut a deal with the prosecution, so he wasn't actually, he didn't go to jail or anything, he wasn't accused. He was a prosecution witness, all right? So they give them information about the questions that they're gonna be asked, and then when they're cross-examined, they have no clue what the other side's gonna ask, they have to answer on their own. And, both of them are kinda like, you didn't tell us we had to come up with our own stuff, so, but it was kinda neat to watch, how they answer questions on their own. So they really enjoyed that part. At the Capitol, the first thing that we kind of do when we get there is, of course, you got to go through security, but then we had a Capitol tour, where a tour guide took us around for about 30 or 40 minutes to show us different parts of the Capitol. And then at that point, we're going to go check in with our legislators. Now the House started their session early that morning. They told us it'd be 11, they actually started at 9. So we went over to the Senate and we introduced the 4 students to Jack Woodrum, who happened to be in his office, and he talked to them in their office, kind of showed his office around to them, and then he took them to the Senate floor. And this was about 10 o'clock, so the session started at 11. And he spent a great credit to Mr. Woodrum. He spent probably 45 minutes on the Senate floor, showing them around his desk, the whole Senate floor there, to walk around a little bit. He answered every question that they asked, which was quite a few. And then of course, we took a picture in front of the Senate President's gavel area up front on the podium. They really enjoyed that. One thing I forgot is on the first day, we also went to the Supreme Court, the West Virginia Supreme Court. And there were 2 justices there. Do you guys remember who they were?
Armstead and the
Chief Hutchison, right? So Chief Justice Hutchison was there, and then Justice Armstead was there. And they did a great job answering questions. But they actually also gave them a lot of history about the Supreme Court, and that was designed by Cass Gilbert, who then later went and designed the U.S. Capitol. And of course, everybody thinks that, our Capitol's modeled after the U.S. Capitol, but it's actually what? It's the other way around, right? We built our Capitol first, and then he went and designed the U.S. Capitol. So, and you guys asked the weight of the columns and, all kinds of fun questions. So they had a blast there. And then, of course, kind of the highlight is we got to eat with, on Tuesday night, the night before we came back, we got to eat with the delegates. We had a formal dinner with the delegates. Now, Mr. Woodrum was unable to be there until the very end because he was at an arts with Randall Reed Smith. He was at an arts awards celebration. And Mr. Baldwin wasn't able to be there, and Mr. Cooper wasn't able to be there. We had an outstanding representative from Harrison County that sat with us, and again, answered every question that was thrown at her, just that we just met her, but everybody else was finished at the table, and she still had about half of her dinner left because she was answering questions and didn't get to eat the whole time. And I finally said, all right, you gotta let her eat, gotta let her finish. And she was great, she enjoyed that. She loved to answer the questions, she told us a lot about the process. They asked about certain bills, and one of the best questions was, is there a bill that you voted on that you ever regret? The way you voted later on. And she went through that whole process, so it was really outstanding. And I mean, it's a great experience. We certainly want to keep this going, so we appreciate the support. And we're able to take 4 this year. Maybe we can add on to that once we put COVID finally in the back mirror and kind of move forward. Certainly we want to provide as many opportunities as we can, and maybe even look into some of our high school kids there because they run a high school program as well. So, do you guys want to say anything? You want to answer any questions?
Sure.
If you guys have any questions, everyone will have to answer them. I mean, that's up to you.
How much did that cost?
2 tons.
They really thought it was going to be a lot more, but it was 2 tons. And did you remember the one fact about what they said? The columns in the Supreme Court were the only solid columns in the entire complex. Everything else were like in 3 pieces stacked on each other. But the ones in the Supreme Court were solid marble, and the only ones in the entire building that were solid. So I think that's really interesting.
What was each one of your favorite parts?
mock trial. And listen, we kind of got started a little bit late, but everybody in that trial was enthralled, and when you look down at your clock, it lasted like an hour and a half. I mean, but you didn't even know the time you got done, everybody was into it.
The mock legislation.
Yeah, so they had all the chaperones go out and form their own committee. They wanted us to come up with the craziest amendments that we could to see if, you know, how the students would vote on them, to see if they would have any discussion, and we kind of come up with some silly ones. I think they were kind of not happy with a couple. One of them involved running 3 miles class or something. Dinner with the delegates, and before the dinner, we actually went over which fork to use, which knife, all that, went over all of that, because, they want everybody to, it's a formal dinner, so, and they went over which water glasses you ordered, and everything, so, I think they were kind of, it was kind of neat that they went through that process as well.
I personally liked being at the Capitol. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, the Capitol was fun. We were able to go to the Capitol 2 days. So it was, just going over across, I got to walk go to the West Wing, and walk across the roof, and, you're right there kind of pretty close to the dome, and to see the offices there and kind of get a behind the scenes kind of tour. I think it was really kind of special for me.
The only question I have, because I'm kind of familiar with this, but did any of the students get to hit the big gavel that starts the meeting? Did any of them get to use that gavel?
They didn't let us use the gavel at the time when we took the picture. We were about 15 minutes before the session, I think about 20 minutes, and there were quite a few other senators that started to come in, so I think we kind of ran. As soon as we got out of there, they started bringing some pages in, and there's a ton of photo ops they do right before, but no, none of us actually got to hit the gavel, unfortunately. That would be pretty cool.
The only reason why I bring it up is because I know with PBS, they do that kind of stuff. My daughter was able to do that. And the stories that are told about the gavel being made, and then to watch them really hit it
Right.
hard 3 times to get everybody in order, I just figure most students would like to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't get in trouble for actually hitting something that loud, and it sounds real loud in that dome, if you will. when you're
Right.
there. Yeah.
And after the session started, we went up to the gallery, and we probably were there about an hour. It was right at 12, I think, before we went out to eat. So they got to listen to a lot of the it's not arguing, but a lot of the debate back and forth. I think one of the comments was that Senator Baldwin got aimed on the floor. Is that what did they say?
That's what I said.
He proposed an amendment that got voted down soundly, so I think, but they had fun kind of watching that and really paid attention as far as what went on up there, so it was kind of neat.
Well, let's recognize him one more time. Congratulations. If you're one of the parents or any of the students that came tonight and you would really like to sneak out of here, you're more than welcome to leave at this point, or you can stay for a full board meeting. But most people take this opportunity to slip out, and it's not too embarrassing if you want to leave.
And thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Daddy, where you going? I'm sorry, I thought it was my brother's.
Now, he thought it was his too earlier.
Good work, Mr. Taylor. That brings us to item 7 on the agenda, which is approval of bills. So at this time, we will take up consideration of the R.T. Rogers bill. Mr. Brody doesn't have to recuse himself because he's not in the room, okay? Chair moves that we pay the R.T. Rogers bill as presented to us by CSBO. seconded by Mr. Angel. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. I didn't even know you wasn't on here. We just paid a bill, and so you weren't here, so you are recused.
great.
Okay, we have another bill. You may leave the room. The other bill consideration, this is reimbursement for travel to Charleston to the West Virginia School Board Association meeting. And Chair moves that we pay this bill to Mrs. Farley for her reimbursement of approved funds, travel expenses. Second by Mr. Brogan. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 3 votes in the affirmative. That bill can be paid. Go back. At this time, the chair moves that this board approve the payment of the remainder of the bills as presented to us by CSBO. Motion by the chair, second by Mr. Angel. This board approve the remainder of the bills presented to us by CSBO. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. 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 4 votes in the affirmative. The rest of the bills may be paid. Do we have any transfers or supplements?
Yes, they should be in your folder.
Ms. Crick, do you want to lead us through this?
Yes, so these are all just pretty standard adjustments. The top section is the transfers, and that is just moving from one project code to another project code to make sure there are sufficient funds. The bottom portion is the supplement of the remaining ARP funds, just to add to our budget to make sure everything is included.
I'll make a motion, we approve the transfers and so.
Chair seconds that. Motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by the chair. This board approve the transfers and supplements. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 4 votes in the affirmative. The transfers and supplements have been approved as presented by the CSBO. We have old business item now under 9A. Personal leave policy and carryover. Superintendent Wilbur, did you share with us the last meeting comments made, or do you have any comments for this?
Now, you all have the comments, the 18 that were presented. We couldn't take any more because the date was of that time that we put on the timestamp of comments. You received 18, 2 were service, the rest were professional.
Okay. 9A, old business, consideration of personal leave policy and carryover. Any points to be made? Any board members, any discussion?
Have we talked to Trey about this yet? Is he looking into this policy for us?
Basically, he said it's up to you all, because he went by state code on everything, and then he also made sure that $500 bonus was in there. Other than that, he said it's up to you guys if you want to make any changes. That's what the boards do. They hire and fire superintendents, and they deal with policy. So you guys are up to deal with however you want. You can either leave it the way it is, make adjustments, or those are it. Those are your 2 options, basically. Make adjustments or leave it as it is.
I've thought about this policy over the past couple of weeks, and so we talked about if it was gonna cost the county money. So if we have 4, now these are without cause days, is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, these are 4 without cause days. So if you have 4 without cause days in year 1, and 4 without cause days in year 2, if a teacher takes those 4 in year 1, 4 in year 2, we are going to cover a sub for 8 days. Is that a correct statement? So if we allow them to carry 2 over, we would cover a sub for 2 days in year 1 and 6 days in year 2. So either way, we would still cover a sub for 8 days. It would just be a matter of what year we cover that sub in.
Yes.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
It does.
So the only way that I see, it's gonna cost the same either way. The only way it saves money is if a teacher decides, or a service personnel, that they do not wanna use those days and let them roll into their sick days. That's the only way it would save the county money. So whether we allow them to carry 2 days over, or whether we don't, it's gonna cost the same amount. So I would like to see the 2 days be allowed to carry over as it was previously.
Previous policy allowed 3 from 1 year, and you could carry, you could accumulate up to 6. That would be personal leave without cause. Isn't that right, Ms. Crook, from previous?
That was prior to the law changing 2 years ago. So, yes, there were 6 at one point in time, and then it went up to a total of 8.
The law then allowed it to be a total of 8, correct?
The law allowed for personal leave at the beginning of the year, and then our county policy, so you can have up to 8 in Summers County.
That you could use in 1 year?
If you had carried over from the previous year,
You
yes.
could. Okay.
I was thinking the previous policy we had stated you could carry 2 over for a total of 6 in 1 year.
That policy was probably 3 to 4 years ago.
That was an older policy, and that was the fact of policy in effect when I retired. But then after that, it did change to what we currently have, or we had, and then when the policy was rewritten by our attorney, and we approved it, then it became the 4, and you couldn't carry over.
Correct.
And that's why this question came up by the staff. And so, if I heard you correctly, you said you felt like it would be fine to go back to the policy 2 policies ago, correct?
Well, so I must have missed a policy in between, because I was thinking the most recent policy. I thought the most recent policy stated that you could carry 2 over for no more than a total of 6. But if that was not our most current policy, then I think that if we can, as a county, we're struggling to get teachers to come in, any incentive we can get to bring them in and to keep the ones we have, I think we need to take advantage of it. If, whether they use it in year 1 or year 2, the money's gonna balance out over time, as opposed to them taking 4 days this year, 4 days this year, 4 days next year. If they take no days this year, 8 days next year, we still have to cover 8 days with subs. So I would like to see that part of the policy with the carryover days go back to our most recent, the most recent previous policy.
Okay,
Or carry over 4.
we're gonna need you to put that in specific textual audio information on a motion, okay?
Well, yeah, so do we just need to relay that to Trey and then let him write the policy and then bring it back to us, or we need to put it in motion?
No, you guys have to vote on it,
Okay.
and that changes
Dodge this
policy.
one.
That's giving you track. So I would like to make a motion that as far as the carryover days allowed, it revert back to the most recent policy that we had prior to the update.
So when you say that, are you saying 4 and 4? Carry over 4 to get up to 8?
What was our last policy?
That's to get it, that was 8, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
Because you have to put a number in there so we know with the minutes.
Ms. Crook, you're pulling up the policy before the one that Mr. our attorney just redid, correct?
I'm trying to pull up the policy because I think the way it's said is that it would not, oh yeah, right here. So the way policy reads for this current year is that you have your 4 days, you can carry over 4 days, and then the change where it was only gonna be 4 days with no carryover days wasn't effective until July 1st of this year. So this current school year, you have 4 from this year and 4 from previous year. So the changes to only have the 4 days is not effective until July 1st. So I guess if you all vote as a board, you could have the 8 days and that's how it would be.
So 4 and carry over 4.
Correct.
Is in effect now until the end of this school year.
For the current school year, you can have
So
8
then,
days.
yes, correct. July 1, it changes to the new policy that we've had redone. And the new policy says you can have only 4 days, period. Now, does that make sense now? Okay,
Are we missing anything? Is it really going to cost too much to run seniors?
It's all gonna be dependent on what our teachers or what our staff takes. And
I mean, whether it's all 1 year or spread, it's still over a 2 year period, more or less.
more or less,
And it's still up to the administration of the school,
correct,
okay, Mr. Hudgens, to determine, yes, you can take it or no, you can't,
correct.
based on staff.
under new contracts, teachers can build up and accumulate X number of sick days, correct? Okay.
And when it wouldn't cost would be when they retired and all that time built up would go over to retirement. And that's when it would cost the county.
I don't know if, I don't know the new contracts, that, do they still allow it to go to retirement?
Yeah, that's part of the retirement package.
All right.
What she's saying is, the county picks up the personal, the without cause, the sick goes into a bank that you can use later. And if you would go to another county, it would follow there or towards retirement. But retirement's changed so much compared to when you retired, Mr. Duncan.
That's correct.
No, seriously, they had the Cadillac plan. Well, you're here, Mr. Hartwell, is that about right? That,
Somewhat a Cadillac plan.
Yeah. yeah,
I'll second Greg.
Yeah, maybe if the state had seen fit to keep that Cadillac plan, we wouldn't have such a shortage of teachers and people going into teacher education. But they did not. They want to say they want to have education, but you don't always get the funding for that. I hate to put you on the spot, Mr. Angel, although really I don't. Since we've had further explanation of this, would you care to state what your intent actually is for sure in this? I see you've been writing, so you have the floor.
So I will make a motion that we ask our lawyer Trey to look at the policy again and add in the allowance to carry 4 days over from 1 year to the next, giving a total of 8 days that could be used in a single year,
Do you want to add effective July 1 on that
effective July
of 2022?
2022.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have that, Mr. Ward?
yep.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. No, Mr. Warble has it. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second by Mr. Brogan. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4 votes in the affirmative. Effective July 1, next school year. Get 4 personal days at the beginning of the year, and then you can carry those over and accumulate up to 8 personal leave days without cause. That sound like we're good on that, Ms. Cook? Okay. That brings us to item 10, new business. Under 10A, we have discussion, possible action regarding contractor bids for bus garage repair. Superintendent Warren.
We had till 4 o'clock today to wait on any bids that would come in, and we received only one contractor at 4 p.m. tonight. When I opened it up to do all the work that are in the scope and sequence of all the schematic plans, it came down to $528,690 to repair everything. So 528,690.00. So a little over $500,000 to repair everything.
And that's county funds.
That's what?
County funds.
100% county funds. You cannot use COVID money since there are no students involved.
I swear, I would think you could build that for less growth than most of that.
Would it be your, I guess I'll put you on the spot.
That's fine. I can say I don't have an answer.
Okay. All right, we get that, we got that straight going into it.
Yeah.
Would you be of the opinion that possibly this was a bid provided that says, I really don't want to do this job? Or do you think this was a,
I have no idea
No,
on the
okay.
intent.
Certainly looks that way.
and the other person who was going to bid on it didn't bother to respond?
Nope. Mr. Metter had reached out to this gentleman numerous times with calls and emails, and
Didn't he return your call? No.
We have a couple of bus drivers that work at the bus garage that were former masons and construction workers. I would make a motion that this contract be made available for their review, and we have future discussions. Is that something that's possible?
You have every right to make such a motion.
you can make that motion, but here's the problem. Those gentlemen, with all due respect, they can't be involved with that because of, it's a
Employees.
conflict of interest.
Employees.
Oh, my goodness, they couldn't even make suggestions.
Oh, you can make suggestions, but that's all you
Well,
can.
was your motion was not for them to make a decision. You
Correct.
wanted to know if the board could have a discussion with them,
That's
ask their
correct,
questions.
just ask questions. Based on their profession.
I wouldn't go down that road, that's a slippery slope. That's like asking Mr. Duncan questions about hardcore and materials, or asking Kenny about RT Rogers. You're gonna get into a slippery slope because then you're connected to it, and it doesn't, the ethics, that could be an ethics violation. I'm not, I get what you're saying, I don't want you to think you're doing something wrong. I think we do have some people that have done this.
Oh,
I agree with you, you might live with one of them.
I might be getting divorced tonight.
Oh. Well, I'm not a marriage counselor, so I'll leave it on that. But, there's a couple different ways to look at this. Talking with Bob, he made a comment that you could do something to save money, and, but the problem is, it wouldn't, again, be ethically right, not that Bob's doing anything wrong. We would have to rebid it if we would take stuff out to try to save money.
Such as?
Well, you've had two engineering firms say it's not a wall issue, it's a drainage issue. You've had some other contractors say that as well. So he said what you could do is if you take out the electrical and the plumbing and the wall and just attack the insulation, spray insulation, because they clean that up, put spray foam insulation in, that would get done. And then go ahead and do all the drainage around the back side and redo the drainage coming into the front side, because I believe, Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, 4-inch tile, he was talking about putting in bigger tile for all the drainage to actually catch all that water. And then Bob said what could happen is see how it works then, and if it keeps all that water from coming through that wall, then your wall is not really in danger of failure. But like I told Bob, if we go down that road, we can't have Bob take all that stuff out, because ethically, other contractors, if they knew that, maybe they would have bid on it. You see where I'm going with that? So if you would rather do something like that, we can put the bid out to do all the other except for the wall, then we could do that. But at the same time, again, I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, and I'm not gonna pretend like I know any of that. I'm just reporting you all what was given to me at 4 o'clock tonight.
So, when McKinley and Associates looked at that, was that their determination that we have documentation from them that we could do drainage and that wall would be okay?
They literally said, just do what ZMM's drawings had with drainage. They agree, both firms say it's not a wall issue, it's a drainage issue. And again, I'm not trying to start anything with anybody, I'm not even drawing a line in the sand. I am not an engineer, and I'm not an architect.
Right. And that's the only thing, I mean, if they both feel that wall is structurally sound,
All they need to do is state that in writing, because they are engineers and architects.
But they've already done that.
They have, if they have it in writing,
Well, you have 2 drawings already that say drainage. You could do that, you don't have to put in the wall, they've already said that that's not the issue. They just did the wall and firming up everything because that was what they thought the board wanted.
Mr. Brogan, you and I have been here the same amount of time. And I'm gonna bet, but I don't know. I'm gonna bet you will agree with me on this, but if you don't, that's okay. We're in a public meeting, you tell the truth. I am pretty sure that 4 years ago, and ever since 4 years ago, we have asked to be told and certified by experts, because we're not, that wall was stable, not a problem. It's not a case where the board wants to replace that wall. All we wanted to be told was, that wall is stable, it is in no danger of letting that roof fall down on our employees. Am I correct on that? Yes, sir. I think I heard you say that if the board chose, we can ask you to go back with the specs of doing all the drainage, diverting the water, and put that back out for bid. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
Yeah, basically, you would not put a wall in, you would not use electrical or plumbing, because that wall would stay, and that electrical would stay, the plumbing would stay, but all the drainage and that wall would get a membrane, and you'd put a drainage around the side to the front, and then you put bigger piping there to help drain all the water, because right now, you got a 4-inch pipe that even if you drain anything in that 4-inch, you're spending a lot of money on nothing. And you have to redo the front side too to get all that water to drain out.
So you're saying the outside of the cinder block wall would have, within those specs for drainage, would have a non-permeable membrane put on it to seal it off from any water seep. Is that what you said?
That's my understanding, talking with Bob, but again, we'd have to put those specs out to be very specific
Okay.
on that. So you don't have to do anything tonight. It says possible action. You don't have to take any, we can reject this, because you only did receive 1 bid.
I just think that's a bad way to conduct business, to operate off of just one bid, especially when we're talking about $500,000, and we budgeted this, and it's about half that amount, so we're way off on all our numbers, actually, at this point.
Well, that was before a war that started, and you got all the supply and demand chains that are clogged up. Everything that we've asked for at this point in time, it's always, well, we'll get it as soon as we can. I mean, you're hearing that all the time with anything we order right now.
And that issue of supply chain and inflation is only going to continue. That's not going away anytime soon. my thoughts are that if the engineering firm says the only thing that's needed is drainage, that they're not concerned about that wall, if they state that, then it would seem to me like we'd be prudent to rebuild this with the specs for drainage and a non-permeable seal on the outside of that wall to stop any water from coming through. So if the engineers are saying that that wall does not need to be replaced, and they'll stamp that approval, then I would say, what you all think, I'd say the best thing to do is to immediately put this back out for bid with those specs that exclude the electrical, plumbing, and the replacement of the wall, and get the water turned. And since they're saying it's not a problem with the water falling, then that would seem to be most prudent in that we would get the water issue taken care of, and then if there was some other problem, then we'd have to deal with that at the time. But with the water coming through that wall and underneath the floor has always been the problem and concern. So I would listen to thoughts from all members at this time, so make a point on this, what your feelings are.
It's a lot of money to swallow, $528,690. I understand with the inflation costs and all. I think that if we have, as it was stated, the engineering firms have said that if we take care of the drainage, that wall is stable, then I think that's the route we should go and rebid this and see what we do.
How soon would we be able to, you have to clue me in on the legalities of posting the bid and everything?
You wouldn't be able to put it in a legal ad until next Friday, because usually the papers need it by Wednesday to do legal ads.
Okay,
So you wouldn't have it out until next Friday. You have to put that out for a couple weeks, and then you have to also give people a timely, you're looking at easily another month before we get bids in. By the time you put it out in the paper, and, because tomorrow's Friday, guys, so you're looking at next 2 Fridays. So now you're at the end of the month already, and then you're looking into April. But the other thing you could do is if you want to go down this road, this is just one other option. Nobody wants to hear it, but at some point, it's like me at home with my wife and kids. You have to say, well, there's one other issue you could do. You could go ahead with this, not that I'm saying do that, and then we don't purchase a bus this school year, and use that bus that we're going to purchase, since we purchased 3 last year. You could not purchase a bus, use that step 7B budget money, and instead of spending the money on a school bus, you could put it into the wall, and you'd have a brand new wall, and everything that's done on all the specs that were put out. There's that option too, and I'm not saying do that, I'm not saying to do it, I'm saying there's another option, because I want to tell you right now, by the time you take out all these costs, I looked at it, you got plumbing around 61,000, electrical around 15 grand, masonry is around 192,000. So just those 3 things, if you take that off plus bonding changes when you go down in price or up in price. The savings would be, if you did replace the wall and do the electrical and plumbing, I have around $299, $210. So if you respec it, we're around that 300,000 that we said we were gonna. If you guys recall that, Mr. Duncan asked a few board meetings ago, he asked Ms. Crook, what do you got for the county money? And she's responded around 300,000 at that point in time.
so on the bid you have today, the drainage, everything excluding the replacement of the wall, electrical and plumbing, all the drainage stuff, was it $300,000?
Yeah, 299, 210 is what I calculated. If you took out that other, that's not a new wall, that's sprayed insulation on the inside, so that would get fixed. And then you'd have all the drainage, and then the bonding, permits, taxes, because you gotta pay all that. You wouldn't put in a temporary wall either, so that's around $23,100. So if you took out drywall, because you're just gonna do sprayed insulation now, drywall's $38,000, 61 for plumbing, about 15 for electrical, masonry, close to 200,000. You're still gonna have to have some masonry work, but not 200,000. And then a temporary wall around 23. By the time you deduct all that, about 229, 210, just 300,000 right now at this point in time. If you quote me on with this, I'm gonna say, hey, come on. This got at 4 o'clock and tried to get this to you guys in a timely fashion. Because a little over $500,000 is quite a bit of money. But we're also gonna be dealing with this with our SBA as well. That 8.2 million might not be enough, and so us superintendents that have been allotted that money are asking for a little help because, well, the price of poker literally changed. So that's what we're concerned about with that project as well. So I'll just quit talking now. I know I gave you a lot of depressing information, but
Let
there you
me,
go.
let me just go back and make sure I understood you right. So the wall itself, masonry works $192,000.
Yeah, you might as well round it to 193, just round it up.
What was the 15,000 was electrical or plumbing?
15 grand was bonding. Yeah.
Okay, 61 was electrical and plumbing.
Plumbing was 61, electrical was 15,
Okay.
drywall 38.
And these are number figures we would deduct from the 528.
Roundabout.
If we went with leaving the wall and no drainage.
Yeah, yeah. But like I told Bob, even if you would deduct all that to help out, because he's saying, well, this is the cost right now, because he's going by, he says this is only good for 15 days. Because he's worried about the market too, because he doesn't want to lose his shirt. But he said, you know, you could do that, but I told Bob, I understand that, but I have to put it out for bid because that wasn't the original bid. That's not fair to other companies. So other companies might look at this and go, oh, I might jump in now because it's not as much, I hate to say as much work, but taking a wall out is a lot of work when you look at a bus garage like that.
We need competition.
I mean, just on the figures roughly in here, and I've got a few that you quoted that I missed. I mean, I'm already looking at 291,000. So just say 300,000, you'd be taking off of that 528. So we're down to 228-ish, 228, 250 somewhere.
You can't take out the bonding and the taxes necessarily. It's
I
gonna
don't have
change.
that figured either.
But the masonry also is gonna be there, but it's not that 200,000. I would say the masonry, if I was looking at it, I was thinking deduct about half of that, because you're not putting a full wall, but you're still gonna do the membrane, and you're gonna look at that and have to do it. But I am not in that business, so I don't wanna cheat anybody here and speak out of line. But I also wanna give you information that was given to me at 4 o'clock, but that was the timeline today to have it by 4. But we only received one bid, and the problem is, even if we put this bid out, there are a lot of jobs that these guys, it's hard to get people to take these jobs, honestly.
One of my concerns is that, I would wanna know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we weren't just, if we did rebid this, that we weren't just putting a Band-Aid on something that we're gonna have to address again 5 years from now.
Right.
So I think that, you know, I wasn't around for the time when the architects were involved, so, you know, I think I wanna know beyond a shadow of a doubt that, again, that it's not a Band-Aid, that they're, you know, if we did put out for bids again, and that we would have to, you know, address all of this other stuff that's in the bid we got today. That's just something I wanted to express.
Now, if we left the wall, did the architects have, is there an item to shore up the wall, or is it?
So there's nothing wrong with the
staying
wall.
as it is?
It's just a drainage issue, is what they say.
Well, that'll be great. being just drainage issue, I'll be tickled to death with that. Provided they state that. And, when I added this, you said 15,000 was bonding, didn't you? That would go down some, but we don't know how much.
Yeah,
And was taxes included in that?
tax around 12 grand.
I left that in there. That comes up, I know the bonding would be, so it still comes up to a deduction of a little over 300,000. And it was, the bid was for 528.
528, 690. I can give you a copy of
So then the, all that drainage water work would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 230,000.
mine. No, closer to 300.
Okay, tell me why. Didn't we take out 193.6 for?
You can't take the whole 192 out for masonry. I would
Okay.
take about half of that one. You're close to 300,000. I wouldn't get worried about it at this point, because I don't think you're gonna make a decision tonight. I think that's where we're at.
You know, I'm convinced that building was haunted. There's a jinx on it. It's been possessed of the devil.
I'd like to make a motion that we, pending the architects, and if you say it's in there, I'm not doubting you, but if, as long as the architects say, or the engineering firm says that wall is in no danger of failing, I'd like to make a motion that we put this back out with, to fix the drainage issue and leave the existing wall. Put that out.
Did you get that, Mr. Worrell?
Yeah.
So the motion, as I understand it, is with the assumption that the engineering architects have stated in there the wall does not need to be replaced, that we put the remaining specs back out for bid to do the repair and then get the bids back into us. That's it. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Angel, seconded by Mr. Brogan. The motion was that pending verification by the engineers that the wall is safe, put the remaining amount back out for bid, and bring those bids to us as soon as possible. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Four votes in the affirmative, Superintendent Worrell, and I guess by next Friday, you'll be able to have it into the papers. Next Wednesday, and then next Friday, they'll put it out.
That's what I'm gonna try to do. Yep.
Okay. And then, what is it? A couple of weeks for somebody to work. They should, well, I don't know, you wouldn't think they'd have to work too much on the bid now, because since they've already bid that, it wouldn't take them long, I wouldn't think.
Well, it'll have to be in the paper the next 2 Fridays, and then you gotta give people time to work on it. Now, Bob would be a head start,
The rest of them, somebody else bids on it, they're going to have time.
but they're gonna have, you gotta be fair to everybody, because Bob's gonna have to re-crunch his numbers and give more of a specific, because the numbers I gave you again were ballpark, and just got this in the last couple hours here, so, yeah, we can put that out by next Friday.
Okay, all right. Item B, under new business, discussion, possible action regarding donation by the Hinton Historical Society for a trophy case for Summers County Comprehensive High School. I was approached by members of the Hinton Historical Society in conjunction with the Make a Difference Foundation group, and they have approximately $850, more or less, that they wanted to see about donating, and donated it to our building trades class for them to build a nice trophy case to put up in our school somewhere, and that's something that principals can work out as to where they want to put it and what you'd like to put in it. But they want to make that donation, and what they want to do, they have 2 or 3 members that have been working with this Make a Difference program or project for a long time. I know a lot of those members came down here a few years ago and painted a lot of the school building. Are you aware of that, Mr. Metter?
Yes.
So I would move that this board approve that this, to allow this donation by the Hinton Historical Society to the building trades class, and allow principal to work with them on getting a trophy case, make a decision what you exactly you want, where you want it. Is there a second to that? Second by Mr. Angel. Any discussion? It's not really difficult if somebody wants to give you money. Find somewhere to use it. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 4 votes in the affirmative. They'll get in touch with you, Mr. Hudgens, and you all can work out the details of how much and however they gotta transfer the money. They may have to donate it through you, they need to donate it through the CSBO, and you can work out with them. I do know they wanna make it like a commemorative plaque, because they have some names they'd like to go on. It's in honor of some people who have been working at that program for years, and they just wanna have it, they make it an honorarium, and then make it useful and functional for the school. Okay? So when they call me back, I'll tell them to get in touch with you all, and I'll go forward with it. Item C and D. On those 2 items, Mr. Angel, I'm going to ask that you I'm going to look out of the room for discussion on items C and D, and whatever you all decide on that, we've got you all, and Superintendent, you just come and get me.
Yep.
What we have on the agenda under item 10C is discussion, possible action concerning pay increase for planning periods, and item D is discussion, possible action concerning pay increase for substitutes. So we'll start with C, discussion, possible action concerning pay increase for planning periods.
Which they incur.
Yeah, what are we paying for planning periods now?
What we're paying that you guys approved was $30 for that time, just a flat rate of 30.
Is there any limitation on who's eligible for that? Are our new teachers also eligible, or do we have, you have to have been teaching for X amount of years before you're eligible?
No stipulations, we just open it up to anybody.
And do we generally have teachers that are taking advantage of that?
You have some, but not many, because I know when I taught, I really enjoyed that time to get stuff. It's a planning period, and time is better than money for me when I was trying to plan and get things ready, or talk to parents with a parent call, or just get ready for the next class. Or let's say, for argument's sake, I knew I had a doctor's appointment next day, just making sure I got everything tied up and ready to go for the sub.
So do you have a recommendation for this?
I don't, the board president just asked to put that on the agenda, and so I put it on there, but I don't have any recommendation.
And we're paying, you said $30?
$30 for that 45 to 50 minute period, just a flat rate of 30.
Is that just,
It was to help with sub shortage.
that's what I was getting ready to say, is that to cover somebody, is that to
Yeah.
cover the class?
Yeah. Because basically, if you have 7 to 8 periods in a day, I'm only gonna cover 1/7 or 1/8 if I say I'll cover, you're only covering, you only get one planning period, so you'd have to have quite a few teachers that wanna jump in there. I think Mr. Duncan was just trying to help out with the sub shortage, and so he just wanted to put that on the board agenda for discussion for you guys.
What is that, that pay for the planning periods, what fund is that coming out of?
Currently,
We're using COVID money because of the parameter is student, loss of instruction or academics. That's a little broader term that we can use that one for.
So let me get this straight. If they're covering a class currently, it's $30, but it's $30 they don't get if they're just simply taking the money.
Right. Everybody gets a planning period, that's in their contract, so the $30 was just, we tried to increase that to entice people, and we just thought it'd be easier to just flat rate, we're not gonna argue how many minutes or whatever about it, just cover it or not.
Got any input, Norm?
I personally don't think it should be increased. My reasoning behind that is if we set the bar, so high, COVID money is gonna eventually run out, and we cannot sustain that if, and I don't know what the number is, but I don't think it's something that we can sustain for long term. And while we do have a sub shortage, and it is helping by covering class periods, it is 45 minutes. I don't know how much you wanna go up, or how much you would wanna increase, but it's not something that we can sustain for a long period of time.
I think if we did look at increasing that, I think we should only look at it through the remainder of the school.
Yes.
And that's what you guys did with the $30 was due to the fact of having COVID money through the 21-22 school year. So it will end after this year.
Comments or questions?
I mean, you yourself had an issue as a parent with, having 5 or 6 classes here in the auditorium that weren't being covered. I don't see any harm in $35 for a class period till the end of the school year. We're almost there anyway. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking if we do increase it, I'm thinking $5, maybe $10.
That's what I was thinking, 5, 10. I mean, through the end of the school year, like I said, it would put a teacher in a classroom instead of 5 classrooms in here.
Do we have any, I guess, I know you kind of addressed the question, but on a weekly basis, how many do we have to take advantage of this? I guess, is there a way to know? I know on the spot right now, you probably.
I wanna say probably at the high school, we maybe only have 7 to 10 teachers that are taking advantage of it.
And so that's only covering 7 to 10 classes, that's not
So that would basically, depending on
Cover one person.
one person.
one class.
And I don't know about the elementary schools, I've been on the payroll side, so, but I would say the one list that I saw was maybe 7 to 10 people at the high school.
We have to look at the plus side of it though. That's at least 7 to 10 classes that are being covered. And, we have to look at the up instead of the down of it, so. Kenny's our money guy.
Well, we got a severe issue that's, and I'm all about trying to help teachers. I would be willing to support, let's just split the difference and say $750, so $37.50. Just through this year, while we're being able to use COVID money.
I'm pulling up.
I will make a motion that we move from the current $30 per planning period to $37.50 per planning period, ending at the end of the current school year.
I second that.
motion on the floor to increase the pay for covering the planning period from $30 to $37.50 by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mrs. Farley. Any discussion? It's just three of us. Cadillac discussion. All in favor? Aye. So, the minutes show that in a 3-0 vote, we have increased the pay for covering the planning period from $30 to $37.50.
Mr. Hutchins, could you keep us posted on whether or not that is beneficial or not to you?
Sorry.
Would you keep us posted on whether or not that is beneficial?
Yeah, I think
If you're getting more participation
Yeah,
because of what we just
any
did.
chance you can compensate a teacher more, to give up that time would be beneficial. You know, like Mr. Roll stated, there's a lot of teachers that need their planning period, to grade papers, contact parents, do lesson plans. So, you know, if we have 6 teachers out, if we had 6 teachers absent without a sub, that'd be, 6 times 6, 36 planning periods, or 36 periods that needs covered, so, that's a lot. That's a lot, but normally, if we have 2 or 3 people that can cover, that at least diminishes the number of people we have to have in here.
I just mean in a future date, maybe the next meeting, if you could just let us know
Yeah, we do
if
it.
it's
We
improved any at all.
We have a daily payroll sheet for that, so yeah, I can track it.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so we are now at agenda item 10D, discussion or possible action concerning pay increase for substitutes.
So, it's the same thing as the last one. So,
Substitutes are paid based on years of service. Is that right? Or how does the rate of pay for substitutes determine?
So,
it's kind of convoluted, but I'll let her explain.
so substitutes are paid, with the retired teacher, it's based on their degree level and years of service. So if you had somebody who retired, let's say with 35 years of service, for the, they're probably gonna be making $150 to $160 a day for the first 10 days. Let's say that they're in a consecutive position. For the first 10 days, they would be paid a P-1, which would be 80% of a full-time teacher. At day 11 through day 29, they are paid, day 11 through day 30, they're paid a P-2, which is a step increase. And then at day 30, consecutive days or 30 days in a position, in that one position, they are paid at their full salary. Daily rate of full salary. So if you have a general sub who comes in with a bachelor's degree, no experience, I think it's approximately $135 a day. But based on your years of service and degree level, it would increase on a daily rate.
So we could have subs making over $200 a day.
You have some subs making over $300 to $350 a day if they're a retired sub working in a long-term vacant position for the whole school year.
So I would say that sub probably works quite a bit.
Yes.
We need to figure out a way to help, and that's probably not doable, help those who are, for lack of a better word, less educated and less experience.
I think what would probably be helpful is if we're seriously looking at this one, we wait till the next school year, because we're winding down this year, and I would rather come up with a formula that makes sense, because all you're gonna do is make an arbitrary decision tonight. I don't wanna put you in that position, but again, Mr. Duncan wanted to put that out for a discussion item. But I think you helped out with our current employees. I just would rather have a schedule. You're gonna get paid this much more based on, like you said, years of experience.
What was kind of going through my mind was a percentage of your daily rate versus an arbitrary amount.
Right.
That's something that was just kind of going around.
That's that's your call.
Something that you will have to think about is if you were to do that, our whole system, our payroll system would have to be updated. So that's something that, because everything is based on your state salary codes, so that is something that there's a good bit of work behind the scenes for whatever's put in place. So you're saying
a percentage was something that we voted on as opposed to a fixed dollar amount, you would have to redo your whole.
We, Amanda and I will have to go in and redo all those numbers.
But-
And,
Sorry, go ahead.
and also, when you're talking about substitutes, is it only professional substitutes? Is it, service substitutes? Because we would have to go in, I mean, a bachelor's plus 15, master's 15, 30, 45, doctorate, and then every year of experience as well. So it will be a little time consuming if you're doing that.
And Mr. Ward, what you mentioned coming up possibly next year with a formula.
I'd rather, because if you think about it, right now, we're in the middle of March, pretty much. Then you got, what, April, May, we're done.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth that much work for the return on the investment. We got plenty of other stuff I gotta worry about, so with my central office, we basically have doubled our amount of money that's come into us, and we haven't added more people in that central office. We've asked people to do more, and they're not getting any pay increase for all that work. I wouldn't mind that work if we had over the summer months to try to come up with a better plan for you guys to feel better about chewing on that one and to say, well, I think you deserve 5%, because you have to look at, if you're gonna do this, you do it for all, professional and service. And I know you guys agree with that, but I don't want people to think, well, we're only looking at the teaching profession, because you gotta have everybody. So I'd rather hold off, but you guys, if you wanna go ahead and make a move, sometimes the best move is to fold.
If we hold off and make a formula, then we could address the areas that you mentioned based on education level, based on years of service. We can have a formula that would allow us to give differing amounts rather than just a flat rate.
And also, that would give us time to make substituting more attractive for all areas. We need substitutes, in the cafeteria and the buses, and we need substitutes everywhere. We need to make it attractive.
All right, so it's discussion / possible action, so unless there's a motion.
Table it for the summer.
No action. Have
Just say no action. Okay.
For item C, was any action taken by the board, Mr. Ranger?
C, we're going to increase the pay for covering the planning period from 30 to 37 days. And on D, there was no action taken at this time.
Item E, discussion of possible action concerning mask mandates. Mr. Brogan.
I think all of you know how I feel about the masks.
Just make a motion, Mr. Brogan.
All right, I'll make the motion that we do away with the mask mandate.
Chair seconds that. Is there any discussion?
I'll just say, whenever we addressed this early in the year, we had very little guidance from the state, if any. And I think the reason being, they left it up to the counties to make that decision. My decision was made based on the CDC guidance of what was going to keep our kids in school closed. we're in a different place now than we are then. I do realize there are some people who still want to wear masks, and by all means, I think they should. But I think we are at a point now where the CDC has decreased the quarantine time. And when we first discussed this, it was 14 days, 2 weeks out of school, is a lot of school minutes for kids. With it being 5 days now, depending on when the exposure would take place, if those days fall over a weekend, it's going to be maybe 3 days out of school, which is still a lot of school to miss, but it minimizes that time. The other point we are now as a group, or a county, state, country, everyone, with the exception of young children, very young children, have had the opportunity to get the vaccine if they want it. So, again, my decision has never been based on whether masks work or don't work. I've never argued that point. My decision was not based upon my feelings towards masks or my feelings towards the virus. My decision was based on what's going to keep our kids in school the most, and with the updated CDC guidance, I think that we are at a point now where this is something we need to look at again. I think that based on the motion that was made, I would say if we vote as a group to do away with the mask mandate, we always have the option, if we see cases go back up, to readdress this, but that's all I'll say.
Mrs. Farmer, you have any statement? I would say that back in August, when this mandate was put in, the democratic process worked. We did not get guidance thrown in our lap, and none of us were medical experts. And anybody that voted any way they voted in August had the right to do that. Superintendent's recommendation was his privilege to make. There was nothing wrong with this process in August. But given everything that's happened now, it's still a democratic process. This motion tonight does not prevent someone from wearing a mask if they want to. If a student wants to wear a mask, if an employee wants to wear a mask, a parent wants to have their child wear a mask, then they have that right to do that. And so we're not by removing this mask mandate, we're not mandating that you can't wear one. Any other thoughts from anyone? If not, all in favor that this board remove the mandate requiring a mask be worn, please say aye. 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 Opposed? Abstained. 4 votes in affirmative. The mask mandate is removed. And to make sure everybody understands, if you want to wear a mask and you work in this system, or if you come to school, the parent wants you to wear a mask, you can wear a mask and nobody's going to bother you. You have that right to do that. Item F, discussion, possible action, proposed levy rates. You have a handout in your folder. Mr. Crook, do you want to go through this?
Okay, so this is the proposed levy rates for the next school year. As you can see, the projected net taxes to be collected are approximately $3.3 million. The assessor brings us his evaluation each year, and then we put it in with the uncollectables and any discounts. And this is where we start our budget from, of what we will be having, or what we will be having next year.
How does this compare to last year?
It's actually increased, the net taxes to be collected had increased, about $150,000, which I was actually surprised. I went back and double checked a couple times to make sure I was correct. But based on this, and then what we receive in state aid would be, where the majority of our revenue comes from.
And out of the projected collected, what did we actually, what was the difference there last year?
I think we were down, it was close to $100,000.
Any other questions or discussions by any members? Mrs. Crook, are you at a point where we have to put this out for 10 more days, or has it already been out 10?
At this point in time, you all just approve the projected, and then we come back in April, and we will approve them at that point in time.
So at this time, we need a motion, and I move that we approve the projection as presented on the levy rates as presented to us by the CSB. Does that work for you?
I'll second that.
There's a second by Mr. Brogan. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4 votes in the affirmative, we have approved the projection on the proposed levy rates. Item G, public hearing for 2022-2023 school calendar. Superintendent Warble.
Just like the last board meeting, you have copies of an A and B calendar that the calendar committee came up with. Last board meeting, there was no comments. This board meeting, no comments. We haven't heard anything. And no one came tonight to discuss the calendar from the community, so this is where we're at this point in time.
So you're at a point where you can put out the A and B calendar to our staff and allow them to vote on it?
That'll be the next process, to have them vote on it.
Do you need a motion and approval by the board for you to do that? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Chair moves that the board direct the superintendent to put out the A and B calendars for the 2022-2023 school year for vote. Okay, seconded by Mr. Angel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 4 votes in the affirmative. Put out the A and B calendars to our staff, allow them to vote for it, and then bring it back to us. Item 14 is personnel items. The chair moves that this board approve superintendent's recommendation for personnel items under resignation, retirement, employment, professional, extracurricular, extra duty, employment service, employment substitute. That's a motion.
I'll second.
Motion second by Mrs. Farley. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 4 votes in the affirmative. Superintendent Warble, your recommendations have been approved by this board. Item 15, superintendent report.
Just 3 items. The first one deals with the medical center. Raynell Medical Center has put in place by the trailer company. There's 3 trailers out back if you want to go check it out. I can even lift you up to get in there. There's no official doorstep to get in right now, but there's a little ladder. But I was quite pleasantly surprised how much room is actually in there. And I think Miss Susie Hudson here,
Such a can put a ladder up for us.
I got one today.
she went through it.
I assure you, I worked all day.
She checked it out, but I will say right now, they're just cinching everything up, getting it tight, and then put the water, hook up water and sewage and electrical, and then the bottom will finally get buttoned up that nobody can go underneath, and we'll get it cleaned up and make it look real nice back there for people to enjoy to come in and out of it pretty easily. That medical center is to be used for students first, staff's right in there after them, and then anybody in the community that needs to use the center. This center is to cooperate with all the Summers County businesses and people, and just be an extra place for our kids to go who do not seek medical attention because of the environments they're in. I've given you guys a report on how many homeless students, how many kids are in foster care, how many kids are being raised by grand families. It's just another environment for our kids to go get help. We currently have Raynell Medical at the Hinton area and at the high school complex for counseling services. So they're already here. They've been here for years, and we appreciate working with them. The second thing that I have for you guys is in your packet. You have a Region 1 and 4 meeting on April 7th at the Armory in Summersville. That's the area where I was RESA 4 director. The RESA 1 and 4 have come together, so you have 12 counties, Braxton County all the way down to Mercer, and basically, Raleigh County over to Pocahontas and Greenbrier. You have 12 counties that will come together to work with Howard O'Call. You guys, I sent you an email on this, but is anybody not able to go to this? You can't go, so I got one. What I'm doing is I'll just go ahead and sign people up, but basically you get 2.5 hours and you get a supper, and then you get to work with the counties to have a discussion on stuff that's happening in the state. The main reason why you have it is the legislation. You're gonna find out all the laws that are being put in place on education to help you out. And then Bowles Rice will give us a big what happened with the legislation in the summer, and we'll get you guys an update on that from the lawyer's point of view. So there's a lot to process as we move forward. And then the last one I have, and this is just coming from my point of view, I haven't really had a huge discussion with the central office, so they really don't know that I'm gonna bring this up, but I'm looking at maybe next school year to look at the one policy we have with the Board of Education, policy that deals with when we have meetings. Right now, it's the second and fourth Thursday of the month. I was doing some calculations. We could probably save close to 10 to 12 grand. Is that about right? If we go to one-ish a month, and I've looked at a neighboring county, Greenbrier. They try to shoot with the middle of the month. I've talked to Kayla. She had no idea why I asked the question, because I didn't want people to know my thinking, because I don't want to surprise people, because I don't want to put them in a position. But if we try to go around the bills, I asked her what would work for her. She gave me a date, and I think it was towards the middle of the month on a Tuesday, I believe, but I don't know, I'll get you more information, but I just wanted you guys to kind of chew on that for next school year. You would still have some meetings where you'd have to have a special meeting. You would also have statutory meetings like we will next month. Those meetings you're gonna have to, but if we look at going at once a month, the other reason is I feel like I'm your secretary. I'm putting notes together. I'm trying to keep stuff together. And look, I think we can get more done in 1 month. Every Sunday I give you guys on the horizon or what took place without violating sunshine law, because you never discuss my emails. I'm just putting them out there. Here's what's going on at each school, or just want you to be aware of a meeting coming up with Howard O'Call, those kind of things. So that's just for you guys to chew on, to think about. But you would have to change that policy, because right now the policy states you have to meet on the second, fourth Thursday. Now here's the other reason. Every month I don't get a chance to go to the state meetings with other superintendents, because, well, they seem to be on that fourth, they're on this Thursday basically. And so tomorrow I'm gonna run to Charleston and get to that meeting. But I miss out on networking and seeing what is going on in each county, because let's be honest, when you start seeing some things popping up in one county, it can start spreading like a COVID virus when other things can get to another county. And that can be good, that can be bad, or it can be indifferent, but I'd like to at least be in the know so I can help educate you all. So doesn't mean you have to do it. I'm just throwing that out there to look at that policy, and I'll get the specifics on it if you guys want me to look at that. But those are the three things that I wanted to report on to you all.
Are we the only county around that does it twice a month?
I think you have it half and half. A lot
Half
of
the counties do it twice.
I would say I could ask that question. I could ask Susan Collins, who's the executive director of the association, and see what counties do without putting Ms. Crook on the spot. Is that right with Greenbrier, just one in our contiguous? Because I think, I know Fayette has two, because I used to work there. They definitely have two. I'm not sure about Raleigh County and the rest of them, but I know Greenbrier and Fayette's without a doubt is one's two and one's one. It doesn't mean it's good or bad, but in the words of Mr. Brogan, any way we can save a little bit here, that's around 10 grand.
Honestly, that's something I was considering proposing. So,
That's scary. You and I are thinking alike. I'm just giving you a hard time. Duly noted.
think it would be great. I think it'd be great, especially if we can do it 2 hours or less. But it seems to me like we're gonna have a lot of 2.5 hours, so I will go up front and say, I don't wanna be here 5 hours any night, so that's one consideration. But if we can do that once a month, that's more days you can go golfing and fishing and, take care of business one night and save a bunch of money. I think that'd be great. So that's something we'll bring up in
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah, this is, you have anything for the next one?
Did you ever think?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yep. Well, my
Next meeting will
Wait,
be-
I'm sorry, I forgot one other thing.
Um,
The April 19th meeting, that's one thing we talked about today, Mr. Duncan.
Yeah.
At that meeting, I'd like Mr. Kuhn, on Monday or Tuesday of next week, we need to start looking at RIF and transfer and go to people one-on-one, hand them the letter, let them know what's going on. They have 10 days to let us know in writing if they would like a hearing. So on April 19th, I was gonna look at, we can't adjourn tonight's meeting, we have to recess it. But maybe on that 19th, what we do is we try to do a 2-for-1 and get that knocked out, if there are any hearings. Because last school year, we didn't have any hearings. That does happen sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. But people have to be afforded that opportunity if they would like a hearing to explain why their job was ripped or why they were transferred. Now I'm finished, sorry.
Before we go into that, next meeting is Thursday, March 24th,
Correct?
6 p.m. here.
Correct.
First meeting in April is when? 14th?
I want to say that's a yes.
Yes.
Yes. 14th and 28th are the two regular scheduled board meetings.
We need to have a meeting April the 19th, so we will recess tonight's meeting to go to the 19th.
Okay.
Anybody have any points? Then this meeting will stand in recess until the meeting of April 19th. This is down to the levy rates. So on the 19th, we will finish this meeting up. And then we'll probably have another meeting then, so we want more money, we'll do a 2-for-1. My wonders if we take care of money, demonstrate that. So there'll be an agenda out for the 19th in addition to finishing this one up.
And in previous years, it seems that I recall, finishing this meeting generally started at around 5:30, so that then your regular meeting could start at 6 o'clock. Is that something you would consider?
You could do it like other counties, 10 minutes before, because it won't, the levy rates is pretty
It's just a
simple.
matter of motion,
So you could do it, you could say the meeting's at 1:45 till, 10 till, if that would, it's up to you all.
When you put that out, and you post it that we're gonna do the levy rates, put it to that meeting will come to order, say at 15 to 6.
Okay.
We'll get that done, take care of it, and then we'll go into that meeting.
Okay.
All for price. We are now recessed.